So enabling our customers to have almost like the aha moment, the awakening moment of you slip on a barefoot shoe and you're like, oh, it's actually really comfortable. The fit, the flex, the feel, the three sort of mantras that we talk a lot about from a product point of view. And it's not as crazy as you first think, because a lot of people are like, I don't know, like it might look weird. I don't know if it's that fashionable, or I know it's really good in the gym, but I'm not going to wear it to the office because that's just a little bit too extreme. But once you start putting them on, I've found certainly myself in my transformation journey, I keep reaching for them. Not just because I work for the brand, but because they're super comfy and I feel better in them.
You're listening to Inside Commerce, a weekly e-com strategy, technology and CX focused podcast hosted by experienced digital consultants and re-platform specialists James Gedd and Paul Rogers. Get insights into e-com strategy at leading brands, hear from industry thought leaders and leading tech vendors with practical advice to help you improve your online CX. This episode is sponsored by Shopify. Got a really interesting conversation today. And before I introduce our guests, let me just set the scene. So the topic is laying the foundations for a connected future. Vivobarefoot's transformative journey to deliver a seamless digital experience. And we're going to unpack that. And I'm going to quote words I've taken directly from Vivobarefoot is, through scan data insights and real world stories from the community, MyVivo guides customers to the right pair of shoes and helps them look after them for the long run. So we're going to look at what that really means and how this transformative project is really driving CRM. So a warm welcome to Amy Fullerton, who's the Global Head of CRM. How are you doing, Amy?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, James?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I really loved it. Back in, I think it was April, we did a panel together at the Pulse event and it was based around CRM. I was really enjoying this story. And I said to you then, I really want to go into a bit more detail and hear it because it's such a large project. So let's get into details. But before we do you want to give people a bit of a flavour for who you are, what you do, your background?
Yeah, sure. I'm Australian. You can probably tell from my accent, bit of a twang still left. I started off in agency land, actually. I was a media buyer planner back in my junior days, and that kind of led me into an interest of having an understanding for consumer behavior and what it takes to understand what people do and why they do it and plan around that. And as I moved overseas, went client side, very much landed up in the startup space when I moved to Vancouver in Canada. And from there, I kind of fell into e-commerce. I think it chose me. I didn't really choose it. And that's where, because of my sort of natural bent towards customer behavior and an obsession about why people do what they do, CRM was such a natural fit. And so I was kind of doing a lot of the retention behaviors before I really knew it in a startup space. And when I moved to London, walked into a great FMCG job and selling cocktails, which is always fun. And that was, we went from zero to hero from that over 5 years, and awesome learning curve that led the whole CRM structure from nothing up to flipping the business. So it was super exciting to then find my way into Vivobarefoot, where I am now.
Amazing. Yeah, and really looking forward to getting into a bit more detail, because the MyVivo project is not just a, hey, look, we got some tactical CRM stuff we're doing. It is generally transform. I think the word transformative is used sometimes with a bit of hyperbole, but actually, when I sat and talked to you about it, I was kind of blown away by how much thinking and structure's gone into this. So let's start at the beginning to bring people on this journey. Is what are the project mission and goals? What is MyVivo? Why is it needed?
So MyVivo, I think, has been around for the business before quite a few of us arrived that are working on the project. It's been a passion project of our co-founders, Asher and Galahad Clark, and their vision is to try and have this one entry point into the brand that allows them to access not just the product but also the services. The way that we try to incorporate customers into the brand is through what we call a barefoot lifestyle. And Vivobarefoot is not the weird toe shoe brand. It's a natural minimal barefoot shoe that allows you to rebuild strength in your foot, to move freely. And the more that you're able to move, the more mobility you have, the longer you will be able to do the things that you love doing. So we're really just trying to encourage people to effectively engage with the world around them and nature, getting back into the world and into fresh air, as well as making sure that their body is prepared to take on what we were born to do. And so it's trying to undo a lot of the work that fashion has sort of taught us, but not in a really scary way, in a way that actually supports you and your passion and your interests. And because the transformation that has to happen of going from normal shoes to foot-shaped shoes, which is that barefoot mentality, it takes a lot. It's patience. It can be uncomfortable. It can be a bit of a challenge from a style point of view. We've done a huge amount of research with our customers to try and understand what are the barriers into entering into a barefoot lifestyle, and it's quite holistic. And because of that holistic challenge, the founders have been trying to search for this sort of technical, functional, experiential solution that allows customers to really fully engage into what we do. And then I guess the last thing I'll add is that Vivo does incredible things across the board. It's an incredibly busy brand. We have a fantastic community, an advocacy program. We have huge buy-in from lots of different thought leaders and trying to deliver excellent longevity solutions in the health space. And then we also have our product and incredible research and development that goes into everything from hiking shoes to working out in the gym. And so because of all of the range of what they're doing, it was trying to bring it all into one place. And so that's effectively the brief, is how do you deliver an excellent customer experience that's customer-centric, that's hyper-personalized, that's super dynamic, and it grows with you as a human as you start to evolve in this lifestyle.
Yeah, and that is one hell of a challenge. And do you know what I found really interesting actually is because you're talking about like the fact that a lot of shoes are produced from a fashion point of view. They're designed to look good. Yes, there's comfort built into them, but they're not necessarily designed from an ergonomic point of view to really fit and support different foot shapes. And as someone with weird feet who does a lot of running, I can attest that, because Christ, the impact of shoes that don't properly fit you, it hurts. But I love the fact that the founders, from what I've understood, their family background as a cobblers. So they are, I guess, shoe artists in their own right. So they understand the structure of building shoes rather than just creating a fashionable shoe that can sell.
Absolutely. We've got Asha, who's incredibly product design experienced, and both Galahad and Asha have this, as you're mentioning, Clark's family background in being fantastic cobblers, but they came at it from a very holistic, natural direction where they didn't want to minimize your ability to move in the world. The ability for us to engage in the natural world around us, and for us to actually reconnect. We talk a lot about reconnecting back with nature, actually helps us evolve as better humans. We talk a lot about natural potential and reconnecting back with nature for your natural potential. And the design sentiment around that is built from that essence. So enabling our customers to have almost like the aha moment, the awakening moment of you slip on a barefoot shoe and you're like, oh, it's actually really comfortable. The fit, the flex, the feel, the three sort of mantras that we talk a lot about from a product point of view. And it's not as crazy as you first think, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, like it might look weird. I don't know if it's that fashionable, or I know it's really good in the gym, but I'm not going to wear it to the office because that's just a little bit too extreme. But once you start putting them on, I've found, certainly myself in my transformation journey, I keep reaching for them, not just because I work for the brand, but because they're super comfy and I feel better in them. A lot of parents also talk about the fact that the way that the shoes are designed help their kids just move and interact with the world a lot better. And if you compare kids in normal, sort of more firmer soled, thicker soled shoes versus a barefoot feel, it's actually a very different experience. And most of us are born with feet that can carry us through the world, but we start to infringe on that by the means that are sort of told to us and sold to us through fashion.
What do Mattel, Victoria Beckham, Sennheiser, and Glossier all have in common? They power their businesses with Shopify. Shopify is the most innovative and scaled commerce platform on the planet. It also happens to have the best converting checkout on the planet. Shopify, powering the future of enterprise commerce. Find out more at shopify.com/enterprise.
I love that. I mean, if we could go down a side path, how the conceptualization and the brand differentiation, but let's bring it back to the CRM, because strategy is such an important consideration, and building a CRM strategy is actually quite challenging because you have like diverse audiences, different needs. You have business needs to monetize, and then you have customer needs to factor in. And you were saying about you have 4 strategic pillars for customer loyalty. Can you just talk me through what are those pillars and why are they right for you and the brand?
The approach that we've taken is trying to pull in a little bit what I was saying before around there's a lot happening in the brand, and we need to sort of simplify it into a couple of buckets, if you will. And so we're looking at footwear. So that's very much around product and your typical sort of transactional behaviors, and what sort of styling and buying behaviors does an individual customer have. Then we have a health pillar. So looking at your health profile, and this is incredibly unique to every single customer. So we have a fantastic innovation coming from our Biome team, which is all about 3D printing and doing circular production lines to help customize footwear to your feet precisely based off of a foot scan. So we've got some biometric data that's coming in from your ability to move and how your feet are shaped right now. And we can show you progress over the time the more you come back and rescan to exemplify your progress. But the interesting part about from a CRM point of view is the health is that you automatically start to get buy-in as, oh, it's not just someone showing that they're consuming, say, weightlifting content versus lifestyle styling content. You're actually starting to understand how their body functions and their relationship with the product. So we're starting to knit together the propensity to be interested in certain things by combining those two pillars together. And then the third really key one is looking at community. We have an incredible success with just advocating through trusted advisors, through coaches, through everyday people on the ground, just having that awakening moment of understanding, oh, I don't have to be constrained. I can actually be really comfortable. This does actually help me. We have amazing stories of people having such like pain points and having strange feet or having really poor knees after doing lots of marathons. And they come to us for recovery. And then they come on this own journey in terms of being able to rebuild and actually understand that they're improving their strength. So it doesn't always start with a pain point. It can just be an interest-based or an influence-based, but that comes from a trusted advisor. And so a huge amount of success for Vivo Barefoot's growth has just been through word of mouth. And as a CRMer, that's like gold dust to me, is how do we figure out who is actually just naturally talking about us and how do we encourage them to do so. And so one of the newer functional pieces that we're layering in is a rewards element to it. But how can we do that in a way that is incredibly regenerative and circular to try and help shape it in a very Vivo way?
Yeah, and that is really challenging, isn't it? Because we did a podcast recently around loyalty and how it's evolving. It's becoming more strategic, and points are no longer enough for most. But unless you're just a mass market buy every day and people just want discounts, it has to be broader, and also has to tie in positive values to try and take people on that journey. So let's come on to the project now, because we said at the start this was transformative. It's not just you and a CRM team on an e-commerce site. Yeah, and great, let's do some rewards. It's across the business. It's got physical touch points. It's got massive amounts of data capture, and then it's using that to drive sales plus reward customers. So how did you structure this? Because I think a lot of people sometimes struggle with the enormity of CRM and where you focus and how you resource it. So what was the structure, and what was the MVP point of going, right, that's the first thing we're going after?
We're really fortunate at Vivo to have an incredible in-house tech and dev team that have put their blood, sweat, and probably some tears into coming up with a roadmap that really helps bring this to life. And I think without having the backbone of the technical capacity and the technical experience, it's quite hard to deliver something just in CRM land, because it does often, as you're saying, James, come back to like, oh, you have some great customer data. Yes, you can start to predict some behaviors, but if you don't have the buy-in from e-commerce, from your tech, from the founders themselves in terms of this is how it can come to life as in relation to the business vision, it can be really difficult to get it off the ground. And I've certainly had experiences where I've had, amazing propensity modeling, and I can latch on to really great ability to predict when someone's going to be interested in a new experience, or who's most likely to refer to a friend. But it can seem really disconnected from the overall marketing plan. If no one else is really sort of integrating with that type of concept. So we've been very fortunate that because of the passion and the vision for a number of years from our founders, that's helping encourage all of the different sort of stakeholders align. In terms of bringing it to life, I mean, I think the way that we've structured it and trying to come up with an MVP is sort of looking at functionality transformation rather than putting a Band-Aid fix. So we had to be pretty ruthless with ourselves in terms of our current tech stack and our build and our functionality that we had available to customers, and then step through a process of trying to figure out, okay, how much can we achieve in a certain time frame? Does that add enough value to a customer or not? Do we have the right sort of tracks running? Because as I mentioned, we've kind of got the 4 pillars of everything from rewards to footwear, health, and community. Each of them have their own roadmap within their little pillars to help contribute to the overall customer experience. So we had to really strip it back to, okay, the first entry point, if we want this to be a toolkit where a customer has a single access, that's our starting place realistically. And it's not sexy, but it's very essential to helping us trying to take the initial steps into what we would call eventually a MyVivo experience. So a lot of back-end connections, a lot of data work to pull everything into one place and make sure that we can surface in your website account area, making sure that we have our different sub-brands all sitting within the same platform, making sure that we're building a stronger tie to our retail footprint because we've got quite an aggressive plan to expand. And so making sure we have that omnichannel view right from the get-go. And so CRM working with tech has been absolutely critical to making sure that this can come to life.
Yeah, let's talk about the tech challenges, because often people go down the route of using third-party tech and buying in a platform for a CRM, loyalty, etc. Yeah. You've got the engineering, you said you're building out in-house a capability integrated into my account. Doing that is never straightforward. What are some of the key challenges? What were some of the testing points that were hard to overcome?
I mean, getting all of the system to speak the same language, I think, is probably one of the first. And you I'm sure many people listening to it, you come into a brand and there's been many people before you, there'll be many people after you, but there's a lot of different data points and different definitions of that data. So one of the initial challenges is just coming up with a common dictionary that all of the systems are speaking the same language. Our solution to that was to really just bed in on our data warehouse and aggregate all of that information into one data lake. We've got a view of adding a CDP layer on top of that to help then visualize and orchestrate. But for now, we're using our CRM platform to, which is like CDXP solution, to be able to aggregate event information into one place. So I guess it's if I take a step back, it's sort of twofold. It's speaking the same language and common definitions and integrations, but then also everyone's signing up to the fact they're like, okay, great, this is the one central platform we're going to use. So making sure that we were feeding in not just into the data warehouse, but into the actionable activation layer, being our CDXP, so that we can track common events across all of the different customer behaviors. So I call myself like CRM tech support at the moment, because there's just a huge amount of work going into API integrations and making sure that anytime we're onboarding a new platform across any area of the business, that can be POS, that can be foot scanning, that can be like health assessment tools, that could be new CX survey tools. All of that information is feeding back in to our one single platform, even if we're not using it, because the anticipation of how personalized we want to get with this, we have to stay sort of future focused. So the buy-in from the team and just making sure we were super consistent was the initial challenges.
Do you know what? I really like that, because that laser focus on the criticality of accurate data in a single source to drive future capability, even if you're not using the data yet. A lot of times people will look at things and go, do you know what? We're not going to use the data yet. It's not valuable enough. Let's not do it. And then systems get out of sync. And then the cost and effort retrospectively to backfill is a nightmare. And then typically brands don't get around to doing it because they go, oh, do you know, it's too much effort.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a classic example where even myself, I was talking to the earlier build of the data warehouse, and I was like, great, these are like the primary events that we have. These are all the customer attributes. Let's just pass those, because I 100% trust that. And then of course, me 3 months later, I'm like, damn it, like, why did I just need to give everything. So it's, even though we know that we have new platforms coming in down the track to help us scale this project, even though we know that we're going to have to migrate from a like for like tool at some point in different areas of the business, the learning by doing of just making sure that we're capturing it as we go and then just sticking to that really clean sort of definition list is really invaluable. I probably wouldn't have said that a year ago myself. I would have been like, just stick to what you trust. But data mapping has come a long way. And so don't underestimate the ability of some of the tools out there to actually help you knit things together as you go.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? This is why I love doing this podcast, because there are, the whole episodes are interesting, but there are always little snippets of, God, you need to do this because the implications are not doing it. And you're right, technology's come on so far. I've worked with other brands where actually some custom middleware has been set to do that transformation of source data, to turn it into the event structure that's needed for the centralized system. And a little bit of effort, and we're not talking hundreds of thousands, we're talking a few tens of thousands to build that translation and messaging system, means that they've now got that structure. And you lose the dependencies of, well, hang on a minute, that's hard coded into it. Yeah, great. But actually, no, you take that system out, you just plug the next one into that middleware.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'm not glossing over the fact that this isn't an easy sort of, pull in, pull out. There's always elements that come up. But I think it's the nature of Vivo is, I always describe us as like a 12, 13-year-old business in a 3-year-old body, in a good way, in the sense that we're so, like, we run at things, we're quite agile, we do make decisions quite quickly to be able to act on opportunities. But obviously we're looking at like a 2-year roadmap of functionality releases, being able to get to this endpoint of a visionary MyVivo customer experience that's hyper personalized. So it's this funny, healthy tension between making sure that we've got flexible structure, but also moving quite quickly and knowing that it will change. And so that's also reinforced the relationship between CRM, e-commerce, and tech is trying to make sure that we're testing things as we go, not in like a really old school like method where we're like sort of, do we lean into it? Like, are we lean into it, figure that out? No, we're going to backpedal a bit, move on to the next thing because we need to deliver something new, come back to it. And it's kind of like this dynamic space of really trying to figure out what's the right functionality fit. But obviously as a CRM person, I'm just obsessing over, will this work for the customer and is this value for the customer? So we have some fun conversations internally.
Yeah, but it's good. It's always, somebody has to be the ambassador for customers, even while retaining a sensible commercial perspective on it for the business, because then you don't just make compromised decisions. But let's come on to the customer insight bit, because that's fundamental to what you're trying to achieve. Gathering customer insights, using it, and then building that into value proposition for the customer. So how do you what are the critical data sources where you're able to pull in really valuable customer data, and how can you then use that?
So with what I love about this project is the combination of biometric information with behavioral information. And when I first came into Vivo, it was, we're very data rich. We're obsessed with talking about our customers. We have fantastic insight and research undertaking by members in our team. It's this wealth of information that's constantly coming back in, particularly because of our scale and because we're a global business. There's almost too much to play with. And so it's been this interesting process of figuring out what type of insight to really lean into and follow and what not. And I feel like we've really landed in a great place with our brand and research of understanding who our existing customer is, but who our growth customer is. And because of that, where I've been trying to almost make the Venn diagram of like, okay, but what makes them common from a CRM perspective, and how can you deliver something that's looking after both areas of the business? It's not an easy task to be like, hey, here's 6 different personas, here's 2 different states of the customers, and here's, like 50 different countries that you have to speak to. And so I tried to boil it back down to what are the sort of, I call them aha moments, but like what makes them really latch on to something. and start to gain traction within the brand. And so it's everything from physical interaction with the product, which can be in store, but it's also our event base. And I mentioned our community work and sort of the huge amount of effort that goes into not your typical affiliate style, but building really strong relationships with thought leaders and advocates for a healthy lifestyle that believe in the barefoot method. And when you watch someone interact with someone who's so passionate about their own story and their own health capacity, it's a completely different conversation than coming to them with a product through like a single ad saying, hey, trust us, this will be great for you. And so it's trying to figure out how we tap into those moments and create them in a digital space just as much as we can achieve success in a physical interaction. And so where the Biome team have done a really great job is figuring out that the foot scanning is really great entry point into people understanding about their feet, because you get this real-time feedback of, oh, I'm not standing in the right way. I'm leaning too far back onto my heel. I'm not actually balanced. My posture's completely out. You don't realize how much power your feet can give your body. And because of that sort of biometric space being so interesting, automatically it gives you a completely different layer to your e-commerce data if you're able to tap in and someone can scan their feet with a mobile, or they can go to an event, or they can go in store. And that seems to be sort of the entry point for us that kind of unlocks this key longevity moment and lifetime value for us, is an interaction either with a product or with a health awakening moment. And then we can start to structure based on really classic stuff like, what are you interested in? Are you a gym goer? Are you just walking your dog? Do you just play with your kids? Or are you really into hiking? Then you can start to tailor content around that. And then, of course, we can do product recommendations and all the other bells and whistles that a lot of people will already be familiar with listening to this podcast.
To be honest, even just listening to you, you've already sold me on this, and that I'm getting some new running shoes soon. So when I'm next in London after my holiday, I'm going to have a foot scan, because it actually sounds like a really enjoyable process, because I've bought a lot of running shoes over the years, and you're right, the importance of getting it right. And I've been to a lot of places where they just go, here's a shoe. All right, you've got a problem with an instep, right? Try these 3, but the diagnostics are not accurate, versus a store where they scan you. They get on treadmills, they monitor and they look at it and they show you feedback. And then you get a proper advice from somebody who's got specialist skills rather than somebody who's just trying to sell you shoes.
I mean, the store teams are fantastic. And then the community and health team, we do things similar to, like, we have a treadmill that can help do running diagnostic and talk about barefoot running, because it seems to be quite polarizing, the running space and the barefoot space, because it is pretty technical to run in a barefoot style. And we believe that your feet can start to bring back the energy and the flex and the strength to be able to run barefoot if you have been running on quite thick soles for a long time. And so there's a transformation that we have to take a customer through, but because we can't just send you out to running 20K in straight away in a pair of barefoots, you got to let your body adjust. But we do have some great skills within the business that helps the customer get from A to B. And it's a lot of fun in store. It's quite a different feel to a lot of different companies, which makes it, I guess, more enjoyable and more interesting for a customer. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is it. People have talked for years about experiential retail, and I think sometimes it's made more grandiose than it is. And what customers need is to feel like people understand their needs and are there to support them, rather than are time poor and just want to sell them something and get on to the next customer. And I think when you have that, because buying into something like a decent pair of shoes isn't just that I need that. It's not like buying an everyday piece item that you're just going to use. You want something that's going to give you good comfort, like endurance as well, and longevity. So let's talk about the next piece. How do you, because data is really important, you've got all these rich data sources. How do you make it actionable? Because that's actually, it sounds surprising easy, right? We can just act on this data, but then you look and go, shit, we've got so much data. What do we do? What's your approach? Because this is an ongoing evolution. How have you started to use it? What are the key areas you focused on?
I think I'd probably explain it in use cases matched to the business vision. I think we were working really closely through figuring out what type of CDP platform we went through, and this was actually really helpful at the same time to understand how do we structure the actionability of our data at the same time. And so leaning into that methodology of, how do you really prove the ROI of a CDP is actually a really similar process to what we're doing with MyVivo. And, you've got so many moving pieces, as I've alluded to. You've got tech, you've got e-com, you've got brand, you've got research, you've got customer, you've got CRM, you've got loyalty programs, you've got lots of releases. And so starting with the business mission, which is, encouraging people to engage with nature and their natural potential, starting with their feet, let's make sure that we're delivering data points around that initial intro into the world, which is starting with feet, because we know that the initial intent most of the time will be because someone said, hey, you should really give this a go, or this will help you move, or this will help you work out, or this will, make you feel really comfortable, or it's, recovery. And so if we start with the data points around the feet and prioritize that, then we can start to almost like move up the body in terms of the health and wellness offering that we can give. So the biometric data I'm really passionate about, you can probably tell. And then, because I know that we're already gathering quite a bit of e-commerce behavior. So where are they browsing on site? What kind of content are they consuming? What videos are they watching? The pairing of that natural content consumption and interest base, getting them to engage with questionnaires or quick click tests to know what type of activities you're really interested in. They're kind of like the 3 key points. The biometrics in their foot, making sure that they actually see the relationship of how powerful feet can be, making sure that we understand what it actually means to you in your daily life. So are you just after your average daily walk, or are you after something a little bit more extreme? And then, of course, making sure that we understand what type of health interest you have. So they're the kind of priorities for our first couple of phases. And then we get more nerdy and more exciting around propensity modeling and personalization layers, and making sure we have really consistent omnichannel experience, so that if you walk in store, we have the exact same information on you as if you had been digitally online, and just making sure we can cater to those different states.
Yeah, I mean, I love it because I can see the value from a CRM point of view as well, is that because you have such like depth of data, and there's a scientific element to it, as well as like that comfort and general lifestyle element. Being understanding customers who want that to geek out. Like me, as someone, I used to run a lot more than I do now, but I do a lot of trail running with my dog. I want to see scans. I want to know. I want people to tell me what's so freaky about my feet and what I need to do about it, and give me the scientific stuff behind it and what it's going to do for me. Because I find that really interesting, because I do it regularly. It's not something I do once every 3 months. I do it constantly. So actually, there's a massive benefit to me to understanding it better, make a more informed decision as a customer.
You're absolutely right, though, that not everyone needs that. And I'm like a really visual, tactile person. So I'm really excited to go and see information, or be able to scan and like constantly check back in, be like, have I gotten better? Have I gotten better? Can I do it better? But lots of people in the business, that even for us, are kind of like, oh, but I just want to feel good. Like, I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to see all of these numbers. And so that's where the layer of complexity comes in, particularly from a CRM angle, is trying to figure out what are the flags of someone saying, yeah, I'm 100% in the nerd world, or really just want to, enjoy life. Or I'm just really into, going surfing. I've heard this is kind of cool for me to do. It's something that can help me along my way. But it does often come back, I think, to this interest in bettering yourself, or like wanting to just feel a bit better, whether you know it or not. And so it's not an easy task, because sometimes that's emotional. It's not something you can express, and it's not something you can get from a click action. And so in our CRM system, we've got effectively like a lead scoring type approach, where this is one of our hacks of initially trying to figure out, before we get into full build dynamic personalization layers, is can we just start to predict combinations of behaviors that indicate one way or another, but allowing it to change over time. Because 1 month you could be really into running with your dog, and then the next month you're just like, I just need to go running after my kids, and it's a completely different need state.
Do you know what? I'm really happy you made that point, because I remember doing a project a few years back with the Wine Society, and we came up with 4 key segments. It often boils down to 4 for some convenient reason, on two axes, and then what were the behavioral drivers. And one of the biggest challenges, the whole thing, defining the audiences and segmenting them actually came quite straightforward, and then the persona map into it. The hardest thing was to agree a succinct set of behavioral levers that measured movement between them, and knowing that those were reliable. So I think it's really important you flagged that, because everyone listen, you need to do that. You need to know that we change, right? And lifestyle change. You're right. I've had this where I've been doing insane amounts of exercise, and then all of a sudden, like life, work, everything's manic, and I still exercise, but it shifts and it becomes a different type of exercise.
Yeah, 100%. And it's been one of those things where you always have to like un-CRM yourself. Not everything fits into a perfect box. We of course do persona mapping, and again, leaning into the market and research that my colleagues have done. It's this huge effort to understand exactly who we're talking to give us all of the richness in the type of content and the color and the look and the feel and the tone and all of the amazing brand elements that go into it. But from a data perspective, I've always had to say, yep, sure, we can deliver segmentation according to personas, but we're actually gonna be a little bit more loose in how we start to pick up what people are interested in at any given time. And I think it's also sort of trying to link that back to more data is often helpful to have in the long term, but selecting what's really powerful at that one given moment will actually get you from A to B. So we can't just assume, everyone is coming to us in January, February because they're going back to the gym and therefore they must want gym shoes. And that's just what we're going to force on everyone. There is a season, of course, there's going to be people that come in through that way, but that's almost in my head like a little bit like old school marketing, where we try and force product based on conditions out in the market rather than trying to meet you where you are at. And that's really what I'm striving for from a customer retention piece is how do we meet the customer where they're at any given moment.
I love that. You have to un-CRM yourself. That's the new quote for me in the industry. I'm going to un-CRM myself. I've got a final question for you, which is, because at the start you said that, this is a journey, it's transformative, it's long-term strategy. How do you see it evolving? Like, what's next in your head? Like, what are you focused on coming up in the roadmap?
I'm really excited about the unlock of having sort of on-demand health content and health profiling in our space that's unique to Vivo. There's a huge amount of competitors out there. You've got your Auras, your Whoops, all of your wearables that are experts in those spaces. And we're taking it from a different route of we have a specific purpose to help people move in the world better and reconnect back into nature. We have a product to sell, but the lifestyle that can change, that can come from engaging with that product is it's pretty amazing. And it happens in little ways. Even if you don't change your style, you don't change your gym habits, there is a bit of an unlock in terms of how you engage with the world. And it's quite hard to tell that to a customer without sounding super preachy or super crazy sometimes. And so being able to display some of the health information, some of the options to engage in the bio data, and being able to have the layer of personalization that sits on top from an interface point of view is what I'm really excited about. So looking at like little product sort of windows in your account space so that we can get you to be inspired but also engage in the product, making sure that you're making the use of all of our different tools. That's certainly part of the vision, but it should actually be coming up quite quickly in our next phase.
Amazing. I think this is also, I love the boldness of the vision, and I love how you've taken the time to think it through rather than just rushing something to market. It's quite rare these days to take time to do things rather than just, right, we need to get something out there. Let's land it. And look, thanks for coming on, Amy, because like your expertise and passion for this are clear, and I think that's really important. So appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And if anyone out there who's maybe embarking on a similar journey, or they're experiencing some challenges and want to kind of throw ideas around with a fellow CRM expert, what's the best way to reach out and connect?
Find me on LinkedIn, I think. That would be the best way. Amy Fullerton. working at Vivobarefoot. Otherwise, I might see you around at different events. I'm in London, so reach out.
Yeah, and you can un-CRM yourselves together.
Yeah. That'll sell it. Yep.
Excellent. And thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Do reach out with any questions. You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast hosted by experienced consultants James Gerd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders, and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience, and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-com strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode.